So the government can use financial policy, such as the interest rate at the Fed, to incentivize spending by making borrowing or saving the best option depending on the interest rate. So, for example, let's say I wanted to make you spend money, right? And you're a capitalist. I can go ahead and make it so that the interest rate is basically zero or even negative interest, that it actually pays to borrow money, right? And this will incentivize you to spend, which will incentivize you to invest,
Right.
and which will keep the economy going, right? The
Right.
problem is that money needs to be able to get back, right? The problem is that we've been injecting too much money, right there, for not enough return, and this is causing problems.
Well, doesn't that?
And here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing. So you create like so we go back to the original example from the other day in which you have one original Benji, and you're using that to spawn 9x of Benjis of value. Although those 9x Benjis are fictitious, but the value's there. But the actual representation of that value is fictitious.
Yeah.
Right. So come time when you have to repay this loan, which was originally fictitious as well.
It's impossible.
How are you gonna find the units to repay the interest on these original?
You're literally just describing speculative investments.
Well, fun.
No, I'm not describing speculative investment. I'm literally talking about
fractionalized reserve lending right here. So
any form of lending is speculative inherently.
Sure, right? But with fractional reserve lending right there, the amount of money that the lender hasn't increased, right? They've just lent out that value multiple times based on the deposits. And so I was saying, if it came to the point where all of the other 9 people came to say, hey, we want our $100 back, they would be impossible to settle that balance sheet.
Right.
That value doesn't actually exist. It's fake.
Right, but what about the original lender, though? I mean, presumably
somebody has the money. It's just that the other people are fucked because it doesn't exist. They just think it exists.
Right, but what about the bank, the lender, the original lender? I mean, they make the loan in the first place because they're a party of the transaction, right? They facilitate the transaction each time by doing this fake Benji thing. They literally create this Benji on the account of someone so that the someone could use this fake Benji and spend it or burn it or use it to do cocaine. I don't know what the fuck they do. But anyways, so like the bank, do they not expect a return anyways? Because on each of those Benjis lent, there is an interest attached to those Benjis. I mean, they don't do free lending, right? They well, unless you said earlier,
a retail bank doesn't, but a central bank can do free lending.
Right. You said it could be like negative interest rate. Wait, how does that work?
How does that work right there? So that can only be done by the central bank, right? But what that means is that they will actually pay you to borrow money, right? Because they're printing it, and they want you to make it do something in the economy. So they will literally pay you to invest money.
Right. And then
you can't do this as a layperson. Only banks can.
Right. So the central banks does this to the regular banks, and then the regular banks, of course, they're gonna want to cut too. So they're gonna increase it from.
They actually charge an interest rate, but
they charge
cheap loans instead of free loans.
Right. But that doesn't solve the problem of where you're gonna find the money to pay the interest back, though.
Well, the thing is, right, is that ultimately speaking, right there, is it never will be paid back. That's the secret about public debt. It never goes down because it can't.
Right, because you always need an injection into the system. Otherwise, the system will just completely collapse.
Otherwise, it'll collapse.
Yeah. But how does this money lending thing correlate with capitalism? Capitalism is
we don't live in like true capitalist times right here, right? And the reason for it is that died with the Great Depression, the birthplace of this idea, right?
Because what this does, Keynesianism,
Keynesian, yep. So, kind of where this comes from right, is that during the Great Depression, there was lots of bank runs. This collapsed financial institutions that increased uncertainty, which prevented investment, which prevented employment. Right? So the idea was, imagine if you could prevent the economy from running out of money. Right? And that's where this idea came from. Now, obviously, the consequence of what happens when you have to pay it back? Well, as long as the economy grows faster than the interest, it's okay.
Now, so in a fake world, growth can be exponential, but you're using this money system, you're overlaying it on the physical world, on the real world. So growth cannot be infinite, because people cannot always be more productive one year after another, right? People grow up and then they grow old and then they die. They experience a peak in their productivity, and then they, at the end of their life, they probably have negative productivity. They need the productivity of the they need to siphon productivity from younger people or from other people of the society, so that they can exist. So in the physical limitation, does not work well with this fake money system.
But it doesn't have to, because it's not designed for your benefit. It's designed for those that currently benefit. So if I can borrow money for cheap, right, and I can use it to make more money, why wouldn't I want to continue that? I'm not affected by inflation because I own the real assets, as I mentioned the other day. All right, so I'm not losing. You are.
But aren't you just using fake money to buy up real assets?
Yeah, but as long as you don't know that, this whole system works.
Yeah, but I know that now. I mean, I look into these things. But you're saying that as long as most people are idiots and they don't wake up, they don't realize the scam, then the system can indefinitely run forever?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But what if all the idiot people die?
Then the whole system's fucked.
Oh, shit. Because this
there are
system
other countries, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's not sustainable. It was never meant to be. Right?
Oh,
it was about pushing off the collapse until later.
Huh? What? It's about what? Pushing what? Pushing collapse to what?
It's about pushing the economic collapse of the system back further.
Okay.
It's always a matter of time. They knew that. Right? However, as long as it doesn't happen in this politician's lifetime or the next one, it doesn't matter. As long as they can keep this fucking balancing act up, right? As long as it happens after they're dead, they don't give a fuck. It's not their problem.
Yeah, so
Wow, that's what.
Because you said MMT is helpful to prevent these boom busts, but it seems like you're saying all it does is just it keeps inflating a new bubble each time. So like it
does, right?
Yeah, so it's not really.
Or it will pop.
Yeah.
It prevents the natural market boom bust cycle right there, but it just simply creates a new one that will blow up. It's like an atomic bomb.
Yeah, it's like
for the entire economy.
Yeah, because like you're saying, like, okay, the central bank artificially sets interest at 0, for example, so that incentivizes you to borrow a ton of money, and you just like throw it into crypto or whatever because you're chasing yield. That creates a huge bubble. Yeah. So I don't know. Like you said, it's helpful to prevent boom bust, but it seems to me that's what creates the boom bust. It's the MMT. No.
It is, right, but crypto is a rather new phenomena in the past when this was designed. So in the Great Depression, right, this actually got people employed because then with this cheap money, right, people were going to invest it into real productive assets that got the economy going and created value. So it wasn't a problem. The issue is that the economy kept changing. Right? And so as the economy evolved right here, this system, right, basically acts as a chain, right? But it does basically guarantee that if you're very successful, you will continue to be successful because you don't have to risk your own money. You can always borrow against the central bank.
Do you
basically creates a new aristocratic class?
So that really depends on if the system is stable enough for the next batch of, I guess, these people who understand the system to benefit from the system. But the moment that the system becomes unstable enough, then the potential beneficiaries would be greatly reduced, right? Because only like the sharpest of the sharp can really benefit or play this like really dangerous high wire act, right?
Which is why, right? They don't actually own assets in the countries that are going to be affected by this. They live abroad. They don't give a fuck when it goes down. Because you got to remember, their money hidden in America, man. It's in other countries right there. If America goes on fire, right? Doesn't matter, right? Because they have actually valuable assets stored in other countries.
Do you consider stocks an actual valuable asset?
No. Right?
So stocks are boomers' retirement plan, yo. Fuck it up.
Yeah. Well, think of it like this, right? So stocks are only valuable as long as the company is valuable, right? But if all the money, right, that the company holds was suddenly made valueless, right?
And then stocks.
Then the stock becomes valueless, because if the only thing that makes a company valuable, let's say it's a buying and selling company, like a trading company, right? And it can't buy anything because the money it holds is worthless. That company's gone.
Right, but like Google would still own a lot of capital, a lot of intellectual property. That's still going to be worth something.
If it is recognized, right? The issue is that patents and all these other things right there are policies, right, of plenty. When shit's really going down, right? Do you think China's going to tell Chinese companies, do not copy Google's intellectual property if America's on fire? Yeah, right.
True.
And so what it comes down to is that there's no real way to enforce that.
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is, right, as soon as the soldiers realize their paycheck doesn't actually buy anything, there's going to be a real problem.
Wait. You talking about like the real military people?
Yeah, like actual boots on the ground soldiers, right? When they find out that their paycheck isn't worth anything, right? And that their family's getting fucked, everyone's getting really fucked right here, right? It's going to create a lot of political instability, right? You know why all those Soviet weapons wound up on the black market? It's because, guess what? When all these soldiers find out, wait a minute, we're not getting paid anymore, all the money's not worth anything, you want to buy this gun? Right? It becomes a pretty obvious question. Right? And so these guys were just protecting the interests of themselves and their families, right? And go point, like, you'll pay money for guns? No problem.
But at that point, like, can you even protect your wealth? Like, I mean, why would anything be worth anything? If America's on fire, if you own, like,
you have to physically possess it. You have to physically possess it right there, and then hope that the jurisdiction, if you have, like, a bond-based one, so just an entitlement to something, right? That jurisdiction is still stable enough to enforce your claim.
Yeah, it's like, but why would they at that point, you know?
If it gets hard enough right there.
Yeah.
So there are some places that are really, really stable that can weather the storm because they're financial hubs, right?
Like Switzerland or something?
But
you talking about like Monaco and shit?
Monaco, Cayman Islands, Bermuda,
Liechtenstein, Singapore.
Russia Federation? You mean?
Definitely not Russia.
Wait, why not? Why not? Bro, hey, man, I was about to invest in the Russian bonds. Shit.
Yeah, so in this case, right, these places are financial sectors because of their stability, right? If they were to not honor your bonds or entitlements in these countries, that would create a knock-on effect of inconfidence in these places, which would collapse them. Right? The only reason people open an account in the Cayman Islands is because they believe the Caymanese government will protect their assets. Right? If that was ever not the case, nobody would keep their money there.
True.
Right? And so if you as an American, right, and America's on fire, right, you want to like cash in your bonds and be like, hey, you know, these are my gold title bonds, right? I want to sell that gold for euros or whatever currency is doing best at the time. Right? Well, right, you're going to have a lot of faith in the Caymanese right there, right? The Caymanese say, nah, fuck you, right? Everyone else is going to look at that because obviously word gets around about this kind of stuff. Do they not have the money, right? Can they not afford it, right? Which will create a massive amount of inconfidence, which will destroy the country.
Yeah.
Because the Cayman Islands would be a third-rate shithole if all that foreign money pulled out.
Do you predict this is going to happen? Do you predict America is going to, I guess, be on fire in the near future?
Yeah.
Why?
So, why?
Yeah.
There's only so long you can do this. Also, that whole thing of when a secondary power encounters a primary dominant power, war is inevitable, right? The question will be, will America fizzle out before that war starts, right? Or will it collapse during a war?
You don't think nukes are going to drop before that happens?
No. Here's the thing: nobody wants to rule over an empire of ashes, right? America's not stupid, right? They know for a fact that using nukes would completely nullify the point of the war, right? And right now, right, because they're trying to state direction of the economy, they can force things to keep going the way they want by literally saying, if you don't do what we want, we'll seize your assets. So there's some perks there.
Okay, so the natural question is, how are you protecting your assets?
I live on a commune that has its own self-sufficient infrastructure in almost everything.
Oh.
There's a reason we have all of our services running on localhost, local networks.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're talking about the real reason for self-hosting.
Yeah. Right. When shit goes down. Well,
here's the practicality.
Yeah, Regis was asking.
So I live on 10 square kilometers, right, of property in rural Alberta, right? Just in case nuclear war starts, we have everything that we need to know on tap locally, right? So between wind, solar, geothermal, hydroelectric, and diesel generation, we should be able to keep our electricity going, water pumping, and other things dealt with. And we're in a valley, which means that any nuclear blast for likely nuclear targets won't even touch us.
You probably got Wikipedia backups too, don't you?
You can download them. I can give you a link.
Yeah, I know.
He's got tons of anime for the nuke, for the post-nuke world.
Yeah, as well as a whole bunch of good TV shows and other shit.
Damn, you're set.
As well as other people that live out here, over 100.
I think your paranoia is unfounded.
Well, you may believe what you wish.
You are oddly passive. Everything I've said negative about you, you do not engage at all. I can't tell if that's because you don't have a response or because you think you're above it all.
Because I believe that your concerns are unfounded.
My concern? They're not concerns. I just think that you're acting illogically.
Well, that's your opinion.
If there is another world war, it's scorched earth. Your attempts at mediating anything are not really going to do anything.
It's what you believe, right? The nearest likely target is over 100 kilometers away.
The actual death toll from nuclear war is a lot lower than what people think it is.
Oh, you can.
In terms of if you just follow the models that the U.S. government uses.
Okay, I'm back. All right.
I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands of people, not millions.
Okay, I'm back.
And once again, Empire of Ashes, right? You need only strike military targets. The nearest likely targets, even for mass civilian casualties, is over 100 kilometers away. Even the largest nuclear warheads don't have a blast pattern that can reach that far.
Yeah, you're talking about, like, with nuclear wars, like, you talk about supply chain breakdown and operational control breakdown, but it's like people act like it's just glass for days, and it's like, no, like what you're doing is like a rational response in that if you think nuclear war is going to happen, that's a rational.
Nuclear war will never happen because it will destroy everyone.
It really wouldn't.
Well,
no. That's what
it would be highly limited, right? So let's say you know how the U.S. has its carrier strike groups, right? It would actually be strategic for me to tactically nuke those carrier strike groups because it could destroy all those ships in one go, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that would encounter a nuclear response, but since it would have to be measured because nobody wants to actually start doing the whole civilian city, start knocking them down because they want to capture them for themselves, right? They want to keep themselves on top.
Right. Yeah,
right.
But when nukes start flying at cities like Paris and Berlin and London, then everyone's dead at that point.
You say that
because you forget about the Russians. They have a lot. The French have a lot. The Chinese have a lot, and Israel and India and Pakistan, they all have a lot. Everyone's gonna be aiming at everyone. Yeah.
Okay, then how do you explain that Russia is just like destroying Ukrainian cities? Presumably, they'd want to keep these cities operational.
Yeah. You notice they didn't nuke them.
Yeah.
No, but they're
So that wasn't the
shelling them.
original scope of the operation. That wasn't the original scope of the operation. The original scope, they believed, was going to be a relatively easy conquest of Ukraine. Right? Now that there's heavier resistance, the idea is to punish Ukraine for its allegiance to the West. Right? And so by doing that, by leveling the country.
Yeah, man. The Russians are based.
You also brought up the ultimate counter-argument to your own efforts at struggling against the system. You know, you attempted to gain independence with all your services and everything. Like you said, you had hydroelectricity you could use to power your houses and everything.
That's zombie That's zombie case,
said
though.
That they don't want to nuke or destroy these cities or these people because they want to capture them. So, if America fell, I mean, where are you? Are you in America?
Nope. Rural
Sounds
Canada.
like a Canadian. Are you Canadian?
So,
are you Canadian?
They would come for Canada too.
Yeah, one of the Canucks. They're from the north.
US, they wouldn't come for you too.
Oh, of course they will.
Yeah, so they'll come for you. What are you gonna do? Fight them off?
Wait, but what are they gonna
get?
But what would they want from his straggly farm?
The land, dipshit.
Wait, land?
You think that they would go out of their way for land in the second largest country in the world with a relatively small group when they would be more focused on the cities? And I don't give a fuck who rules the country, right? As long as they leave me alone.
They're not gonna leave you alone. We're
Yeah, man.
like the Chinese.
Dude,
Okay,
this is
and I spent time in China. I'm gonna tell you a little trick about the Chinese, okay? The Chinese don't give a fuck as long as you pay tribute, right? And I expect to pay tax.
Oh, so you become subservient to a Chinese takeover, is what you're saying?
If it was more beneficial, yes, right? Because let me ask you something, right? Do you think you would win against them?
Oh no, of course not. But that's the thing. You know you can't win against them. So what are you even doing? Biding your time.
What do you even do? Well, if you survive the initial part of the war, right there, somebody is going to take over afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be the
So
Pakis.
you're literally just hoping that the toss of whoever comes in to take control is in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, why?
You're doing
Why are you
all
talking
of
about
this on
scary shit,
quick.
man? Dude, there won't be thermonuclear war, dude. Just calm your
You
tits.
just basically admitted to me that you're doing all of this, everything that you have doing, this cultivation of knowledge, this attempt to privatize your own services.
I am back on. You
Everything.
cannot.
No, man. He's
It's
just a crazy
on a
Canadian.
coin toss.
He's just a crazy Canadian, like the wilderness. Like, don't fault him.
And it could be a coin toss, right? Or, right, it could be that they successfully go ahead and nullify themselves to the point where we can establish control of our own region.
Well, and the other thing too, just real quick, when it comes to
would you
self-hosting
like a
these services, I mean, this individual obviously, gets a lot of enjoyment from, learning how to do things related to computational systems, right?
For sure. Like,
Ooh, something I wanted to ask you guys about. Have you guys ever talked to Atomic Winter?
No.
No.
No. Okay, so they're one of the tech geeks in here, and they were talking about a program that they did, and it's 4 months long, and it's equivalent to a bachelor's degree, in terms of its credentials. So that sounds a little too good to be true for just 4 months of programming training.
Dude, why are you talking about
That's
programs?
what I was
Talking about
thinking. It's a
thermonuclear war.
certification.
What? What's your question, bro?
Hmm?
You know it doesn't
I
matter.
was saying, is that like unfetched? Because I know they have certifications for things, but usually isn't the minimum like a year for like at least like 6 months.
The minimum was several years.
Yeah, but we're not atomic though. We don't know what you're talking about. I don't.
I'm asking the tech geeks in here.
Oh, I'm a tech geek, but I'm.
Oh,
say it sounds
programmers.
suspicious, right? So
Yeah, it sounds too good to be true because they're like, yeah, I make good money.
I mean, I guess
off of it. And I'm
I don't know. No matter what, like the thing that you want is a portfolio of projects that you've contributed to.
the bigger and more notable the project right there, the more likely you're going to find success.
All right. Okay. Fine. Let's talk about capitalism one more time because I still
Sure.
don't understand this system. All right, you say that because you're in Canada, so it's definitely not as capitalistic as America.
Oh no, it is. Right. Canada has the most expansive retail property market anywhere. Right. Canadian property is far more valuable than American property, pound for pound.
Okay.
Is Justin Trudeau Fidel Castro's child fun?
Oh, totally.
I know you know.
Yeah.
Totally. Hey, that confirms it.
That's not a secret right there. So Miss
Without a
Trudeau,
doubt.
right? Justin Trudeau's mother right there is actually well known to have spent time with Fidel privately.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh,
About the
I'm
right time
aware.
to be his mother. So
What does it matter?
Yeah, and they show all the
It's
comparison
irrelevant.
pictures.
Right.
You know, Joe
I was
Rogan
gonna
was
say,
looking at that shit on his podcast recently.
I don't actually watch the Joe Rogan stuff, but I was gonna say it's like, honestly speaking, I'm sure they could power all of Cuba with Fidel rolling in his grave to find out what his son's up to.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't.
I
really
just love the
serve any
comments.
purpose.
They're like, "Oh, hey, look, it makes sense why he's a dictator. He's Fidel's kid. He's just a dictator of
He's not
Canada."
a dictator. Jesus Christ! Where do you
Okay.
get all your fucking
So
information? At least
let's
this guy knows what he's talking about. You're just a fucking idiot.
okay, let's
I've
re-examine
talked to plenty
let's-
Canadians who say
let's-
he's an authoritarian.
let's examine once again the mode of production under capitalism. So basically, why would anyone wake up at 5 a.m.? Why would the farmer wake up to produce any
Why?
grain? Yeah, why?
Because if
Money.
you don't right there, you will lose. Right? So the state creates a demand for its currency based on the fact that you must pay tax in its currency. Right?
Right.
And this was true throughout time. Even before the nation state was a thing, you always had to pay tax, so something of value. If you didn't, the consequence was literally beatings or death. Right? And so that incentivizes you to get your ass in gear to go do something that makes money, no matter what the money is. Right?
So
If you don't,
farmers,
you'll starve too.
But Justin is based
So the farmers
with
have
the trucker
the most immediate-
situation.
So the farmers, as a class, they have the most immediate need to create food because they're the base layer, right? Without food, there's no additional humans. So the government technically tax these people, the farmers, the most.
Yeah, right. The rest of society is technically a drag on the farming class. Right now, in a well-functioning society, right there, the rest of the society produces a great value to the farmer, and therefore it's equal.
Is that true in today's, let's say, for example,
Definitely
Canada?
not. The farmer is fucked over left, right, and center, right there. In fact, if you want to be a farmer today, it's a recipe for being poor, even though you produce the most important thing for society.
Yeah. Isn't the only way they can survive based off of government
Cash
subsidies?
crops. And cash crops, yeah.
Is it because the monetary base is now
It's not
It's
based on
basically-
goods. It's based on created
transactions? It's based on what? It's based on
value.
what?
Created value. Whatever money you can inject into the system right there, that's what keeps the current one going. So in the past, right, people were richer because there were more goods.
Right.
And those more goods meant more money. Yeah. More things were going around, right? Which meant everyone had more, right? Well, today, there's the same amount of goods going on, maybe a bit more, maybe more efficiently produced, right? But there is less of these goods being distributed amongst more people, which means higher prices. But people have more money, but it's not worth as much.
Yeah.
So it fucks over the people to the benefit of those that have more money.
Right, and all of which is not even real, because as we talked about earlier, it's all injected.
It's effectively fake, right?
Yeah, it's effectively. I'm sure the farmers. I mean, they farm shit. I mean, they're not dumb. I'm sure they figure this shit out. I'm sure they figure this shit out too, as well. Right? I mean, we can figure this shit out in like Discord.
They know what will happen, right? If they stop producing. Right?
Well, they'll get beat.
Farmers, farmers are pretty much have all of their property leveraged through debt, because that's the only way you survive, right? Which means that they'll lose everything if they stop.
Oh, so then they become like a regular person.
Yeah, then they become a poor person, right? With nothing and their entire field of expertise right there. Well, I guess you're not going to be a farmer, because what land are you going to farm? Right?
So they become an employee. They become an employee.
Yeah, they lose even more,
Whoa.
Right? And so, literally, the pieces, like the only reason, okay, why the middle class exists right there, right, is that the middle class are kept there so that they can look at the poor people and they're like, you don't want to be poor, right? So you better break your back for the rich.
For the rich. Whoa.
Yeah,
So for example, have you ever asked, right, how much personal labor did Bezos do to build his yacht? Right.
Zero. He doesn't know how to build ships.
No, he didn't do shit, right? Obviously, what he's done is he's created a value that's apparently worth all the labor of all those shipbuilders. In fact, more. Right?
Yeah,
And so
it's not all fake shit. It's not even real. It's all fake.
And so well, the thing is, they're basically being screwed over, right? For money that isn't truly real, right? But if they don't, they'll face consequences for not accepting it.
Who's not accepting it? Hold on. Are you talking about not paying it or not accepting it? Wait, what are you talking about?
Not accepting payment. Like, you need money to survive, right? If you don't, you'll be screwing yourself.
Live off the wild.
So you have to accept.
We can't have that.
So you have to accept this.
Well, it's actually illegal to do that because that infringes on the government or other people's property rights. So, you can't just go live out in the wilderness because it belongs to somebody, either the government or some corporation. Right. And then you would be trespassing, and that's a crime.
And then they'll bring out the muscle, the military force.
And they'll use whatever amount of force, limited not by killing you, right? So they'll do whatever it takes, including killing you, right?
And this is in Canada, right?
Yeah, this is true in every country, right? In America, they jump to 10 on the killing you part right here. In Canada, they'll just beat the shit out of you first.
Yeah.
So
they're just used to beating people.
Why would the military wing agree to do this? I mean, they're literally inflicting harm on their own fellow people.
Yeah, but you have to remember, right, that they are incentivized just enough and brainwashed even more into believing that this is for the good of the country, quote unquote.
Damn, that's sick.
That is why in the Middle East, right, when American and NATO troops are throwing their fucking lives away for no fucking reason, for no real conclusive war, no real strategy, right? They go, it's serving the country because it's a lot easier to back behind something that's that noble than it is to say, I am being disposed of by people who don't care about me.
Yes.
Well,
they'll realize it once they're out. That's
they do, and that's why they start going crazy. Yeah.
Are you talking about the Arabs or are you talking about the American soldiers?
Just any military vet.
Yeah. Right. It's true for any military because, as Marx would describe, right, patriotism, at least in the conventional sense, is a tool of the bourgeois to convince poor people to work against their own interests. Because ultimately speaking, war is designed, right, it's just rich people defending their property.
Right.
Right.
It's always
or expanding it. Right.
Yeah. They start wars so that they can take over another baron's or another property owner's property. Pretty much that's it.
Right. Yeah. And then become the new lord over that land. And the poor people will be the ones doing the fighting and the losing. And the rich people will just go, okay, I guess we lost. Right. And end the war and surrender.
It's like, they didn't lose shit. It's like
they do lose. They do lose. If a rich lord, if two rich lords go against each other, and one lord lose, then that lord either could die or they become just regular person.
Yep. Or they could be subjected